Players, of course, they have to look for certain players that bring a style or a capability that hasn't been at Brisbane this year. So what we did, and Hoops, you've been on this story for a while around Brodie Croft, was scour the market, and I put together a list. I want you guys to have a look at it. So we've called it Operation Playmaker from Brisbane. There are 6 names here. Hoops, you've discussed Brodie Croft before. I've also included Aidan Caesar. Of course, George Williams is coming to the Raiders next year. Sam Williams could be an option, who's been a stopgap for Canberra in the past. Cody Walker, we know yesterday, was told he may not achieve full market value at the Rabbitohs beyond next year. Perhaps he could go early. I threw Chad Townsend up only because the Sharks may have to make some space in their cap for Jesse Ramien if Josh Dugan decides he wants to see out his contract. Conversely, if Chad Townsend's not the right name there, perhaps Townsend stays and Sean Johnson might be someone that would want to look elsewhere. And of course, Blake Austin is killing it over there in the UK Super League. So, Hoops, you've looked at that list. Do you still believe Brodie Croft to be the most likely?
I do, Ben, based on the fact that clearly he's on the outer to a degree at the Melbourne Storm. And I just get the feeling that the Storm, to be cap compliant for next season and make sure that everything fits in the correct place, are probably looking to just shift a few pieces of the jigsaw puzzle around. They would have to probably chip a little bit of money in for the Broncos to take Brodie, but I just think he's a Queensland kid. It makes a lot of sense. Chad Townsend, I couldn't see the Cronulla Sharks letting him go. I know
he's
how much...
He's the one I'd go after.
Oh, yeah, you might go after him. It's whether you can get him or not.
On that list, he's the guy they need. Brodie Croft's probably the most likely, but if you were to say to me which of those players is the ideal guy for Brisbane right now, I'd say Chad Townsend.
I agree.
The thing is, to your point, Reedy, 2 things. One is you don't have to look at who's off contract for next season because the way contracts work these days, you can get them out.
Yeah.
But second to that, and this is the most important thing from Brisbane's point of view, they can't experiment with a halfback. And to me, Brodie Croft is still unproven as a marquee playmaker. Chad Townsend, I think, can come in and do that role. And you know exactly what you're going to get with Chad Townsend from game 1 next season.
And that's what they
Brodie
need.
Croft is still a work in progress. And the Broncos can't afford to hope someone comes through. They need to get somebody now. And there's been an acknowledgement within headquarters this week, which they haven't spoken about, but there has been an acknowledgement after spending all year saying they're not going to go to market for halfback, they've got all these kids coming through, that they need to get someone who's going to be ready game 1 to take that main role.
The other part of this, of course, is what have the Broncos got to trade? Now, David Fifita, 1 more year remains. Look, they're desperate to get him. But to be fair, they are top-heavy with quality ball-running forwards, right?
Yeah.
You can't let him go.
I know it would kill them to do so, but you can imagine how much space that gives them and buying power in the market.
I think you'd be better off letting a bloke like Flegler go than Fifita.
Corey Oates still remains unsigned, is that right? I mean, he's at the back end of a deal.
I think they're fairly advanced in negotiations.
But it's not done.
It's not over the line, Ben, but I'd be very surprised if, given how far advanced it is, the Broncos then decided to take that off the table.
I think it's too. I'm with Hoops. I think it's too far down the track. That
Really?
But seriously, if you can get a bloke out of a contract that's been signed, how can't you get a bloke out of a contract that still hasn't been done?
I suppose,
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. Look, the first couple of blokes you mentioned, the only issue if you try to get rid of, or you decide to get rid of a Fifita or a Flegler, they're not on a lot of dough next season, so it wouldn't free up a whole lot of money. It frees you up for 21, but for next year, it doesn't buy you a whole lot of latitude.
If the Cronulla Sharks and or the Eels or whoever are looking at the opportunity to get David Fifita next year, maybe they start to consider that Chad Townsend might be happy to.
But if you're looking at your saleable commodities, Jack Bird's a saleable commodity.
Yes, there's another name.
But he's in the position, he can play the position that they need. He can play 5'8".
Well, he can.
He
I don't think they're looking at him as a 5'8".
Well, no, but
particularly if you go and
if
you get one of these guys, you've got to find a home for Milford somewhere. He's probably your 6. Asako's your fullback. Then one of these guys, your halfback,
what
Jack's
have you
a
done
centre.
with Boyd?
It's a very good question.
Yeah.
Redcliffe?